Onir, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast here on Mirror Now. It's a very, very important issue that we are actually, covering on the channel, and I really wanted to speak to you about this. First of all, the reasons that the Ministry of Defense has given to you for rejecting this proposal, this idea of this film that you have proposed to them. Have they given any in that letter?
In the letter, all they say is we have analyzed the content of the film and we cannot give you a NOC for it. But before that, I had spoken to the person who sent me the email from MOD, and he specifically said that we don't really have any specific problem with the script as such, but a gay person in the army is illegal, so we will not give you a NOC.
Okay. So, before we go further, let's talk about when did this idea really germinate in your head for We Are, when you decided to actually put this script to paper? When was this?
About 1.5 years ago, I think around about that time, when I was planning to make a sequel to I Am, where I thought that I want to celebrate LGBTQI love stories because of the Supreme Court verdict of 2018, and also talk about that, okay, it's been decriminalized, but what more? Because
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that have still not changed. And
Hmm.
that's when I came across an interview by Major Suresh, who is a major, and he talks about how he had to quit the Indian Army because, after a point it was stifling for him to hide his sexual identity. And I thought that this was an interesting premise, that how can one's sexuality decide. It's not your skill, it's not your talent, it's not your strength that's deciding whether you can join the army or not. It's a sexuality, and why should it be the privilege or of the heterosexuals only to be able to serve? It's not that you have to be asexual to serve the Indian army. It is just that as long as you're heterosexual, it's okay, which is absolutely unfair. you know it's almost from a point of entitlement, you know which does not which is not in sync with the Supreme Court verdict. you know
Hmm.
and that's when I started writing a fiction based, which was inspired by this interview, about an
Hmm.
army man who falls in love with a civilian, and he cannot uh, express that love, live that love, and he decides to quit the army so that he can be honest to himself. So the film is an inspiration from that story, and it does not really, the attempt is not to demean the army in any way, but talking about, just like, for years and years, when women spoke about the need for the army to make more space. For example, this year was this very important ruling by Supreme Court saying that NCC has to, make space for women, and the army wanted another year's time because they said, oh, we need, but the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot delay it by another year. So it's because you raise questions, it's because that things change. So similarly, I feel, as a queer, out and proud filmmaker and an activist, that it is important for us to be able to question, to start a dialogue so that we change and become better as a society. But if, as a filmmaker, I'm not being allowed to have the dialogue, then it is extremely unhealthy for a democracy. 56 countries across the world have accepted the LGBTQI as a part of the army, and we are probably sticking on to colonial laws that just like 377 was a British law, it was not a part of Indian tradition to criminalize homosexuality. We had Shikhandi, we celebrated Shikhandi as a warrior who goes and wins the war. Because of Shikhandi, Pandavas won the Mahabharata, and they was a trans person. So I feel that we often forget history or conveniently remember it. We will dump the
Hmm.
beating retreat. I forgot it. Right
Yeah.
now for the, yeah, but when it comes to dumping regressive colonial law, we will suddenly make that a part of our tradition,
Mm,
and
mm,
UK in year 2000 decided that people from the queer community would be accepted in the army. That's 22 years ago. In 2007, the Defense Ministry in UK apologized to the queer community that it is sorry for having discriminated us for so long. So I feel that I love and respect my army, and I am grateful to them for what they do to protect us, our borders. But I
mhm,
want to be a part of that. I want to be not denied of a possibility of serving my country, to fight for my
mm.
country, to protect my country with my skills. Be it, in the army, you can be a doctor, engineer, soldier, teacher. There are various departments, right? Why am I being
Absolutely.
denied that because of my sexuality? And I would be happy to see our army as a part of the progressive group of armies,
Yeah.
becoming the 657 country, instead of being a part of the uh, armies and countries in the world which does not which believes in this regressive act of discriminating people just because of their sexuality.
So let me get this right. So when you had this idea in your head and when you started putting it to paper, you did not know, you weren't aware of this particular NOC that is needed to be procured, which obviously will be sanctioned by the Indian Army. Is that right? Because for the benefit of our viewers, we'd also like to mention here that this is essentially in July 2020. This was about a note that was sent by the Ministry of Defense to the CDFC, and they quoted distortion of the image of the Indian Army by filmmakers or production houses for that matter,
Mhm.
and hence this particular thing came into being, where a procuring of an NOC is now required by the filmmakers to avoid such distortion. But here, in this particular case, we're talking about something that's based on facts. This is the life of
Yes.
Major J. Suresh that we are talking about.
Yes, there is no distortion of facts. One, two, honestly speaking, I was not aware of this act that you have to, because even if there is a problem, I feel that there is the film certification board, which is there to do exactly that about everything. So why, instead of request, and just because someone has, I don't know, whoever has portrayed it in a way, then you question that. You cannot have this extremely problematic new thing where why should someone from the army judge my script? What qualification does that person have? Because cinema is not just the script, it's the filmmaker's work, it's how I will shoot it. So it depends on a lot of things, and what understanding do they have of that? One. Two, I feel that you don't even if I had known that there was something like this, I would have still wanted to make this film and still written the script, because it's about my identity. I did My Brother Nikhil and I Am and Shub, which spoke about LGBTQI identity and rights when we were decriminalized by law. So why would I stop now? This is about and when people say that, oh, don't try to demean the army, I'm like, I don't look at my identity as something demeaning. I'm proud of who I am, and I think I can be an asset to my country. So if I am not talking about demeaning the army, I'm talking about enriching the army.
Mhm. When you had this idea in your head for VR, did you happen to, just during the course of your research, speak to anybody from the Indian Army, let's say, just to get a perspective other than Major Suresh, of course?
I have, for the last couple of 3 4 years, I have done a lot of work for the Indian Army. I'm constantly interacting with them. I love and respect them. They love and respect me. I'm out and open. Everybody knows that. And yet I've been doing a lot of things which is accepted, respected. I've never faced any kind of discrimination when I am with people from the Indian Army. I have friends who love me and who respect me, and there are a lot of people who think that this is a law from 1857 which need to change. And I had consulted some, actually, I had shared my script also when I had written it with some very senior people from the army, and people had told me, ex-army, present, that, oh, this is a very beautiful story, and I don't think the army should have a problem because you are telling it so gently, so beautifully. So that's why it also came as a shock, because I intentionally shared the story with a lot of people just to understand how they react to something like this.
Mhm. Were you at any point worried? Because since you mentioned the kind of troubles that I am ran into, despite winning the national award, were you very worried? Because this is again, whether the Supreme Court has gone ahead decriminalized, homosexuality, this still remains a bone of contention for many. It is a troubled territory to venture into, sadly so. So, did you actually see pre-censorship trouble coming in?
I honestly speaking, I was not expecting any problem from the CBSE board at all. And when I got to know about having to send the script to the army, I was apprehensive, honestly speaking, because when you have a film, it's different. And when you are sending a script to a random person who does not probably know anything about cinema or my work, it is different. So I was, of course, when I sent it finally, when I had to send the script to the army, I was a little apprehensive. But most of my friends in the army were telling, no, 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 Onir, don't worry, nothing is going to happen. This is going to go through because it's a beautiful story. So I believed in that. And that's why even now I want to reappeal, because I would like to believe that there are many more people in the army who can see the reason and the absurdity of not letting me tell my story.
I was, in fact, going to ask you that what really will be your next course of action. But could you answer that? I just wanted to understand what is the sense that you've got from Major Suresh also after this particular decision by the Ministry of Defense, and what do you also essentially make of the kind of censorship that we are seeing? This is one aspect of it. Here we are talking vis-a-vis the Indian Army, but there is a rampant censorship, and it is grown by the bunch. It is extended to online medium, to the digital platform, whether it is YouTube channels being banned or OTT spaces being governed and shows, being having to just, put their curtains on altogether. So, what do you, as a filmmaker, does it pain you? What do you have to, what sense
Of
do you make
course,
out
I
of
feel
kind of?
as a society, the minute you are stopping today, humanity is what it is because it questioned nature, it questions science, it questioned everything. And that's how, that curiosity of a child also to question is how you learn, how you progress. And if you take that away from society, if you take that away from artists to question, no institute or individual should be beyond questioning. That's very dangerous. I make mistakes and I'm willing to be questioned. But when I'm not allowed to question, as a society, I feel that it is making a society passive, progressive, and passive and regressive. And I feel that it saddens me that you are told, oh, you can't hurt religious sentiments, you can't hurt politician sentiment, you can't hurt army, you can't hurt it. And at the end of the day, where is the artist? You don't matter, it seems, at all. And the importance of an artist is only when we have to celebrate Tagore's 100 years of Tagore or 100 years of Satyajit Ray. But we forget that all of them stood for certain values of questioning society. All our great artists, be it ancient and be it today, we all, and that it would be sad for a society, and increasingly this pressure of censorship, I think is art is suffering because of that. If you don't like something, don't watch it, or criticize it, but not to let it happen. Whereas, I'm always surprised that there's so much of regressive stuff that actually just happens, and everyone is rushing to even support it at times, you know. But when it comes to something important, we don't want to talk about it.
We just hope and pray that your appeal to reconsider the decision by the Ministry of Defense is actually taken into account and something is done about it. Because eventually, and by the end of the day, we are a democracy. art should be respected. It should not really be withheld and let alone be banned. That should not be the case. So that's something that we're not really looking at over here. So hoping that this happens. Let's see what really comes out of this entire episode then. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
joining me on Mirror Now.